immediately gives you some feelings of emotion and perceptions that you make about that brand just in the split second that you see it. So hopefully what you'll be able to learn tonight is some tips for building that brand image within your own ranch, and how to build it and share it and grow the excitement for your brand, just like these major other brands have successfully done. So I want to give a little introduction about my history and background, and thank you so much for that kind introduction. But I was born and raised on my grandfather's purebred cattle operation, and I was part of that operation for about 40 years, where was able to, I grew up with a show stick in my hand and really enjoyed working for my grandfather. In the late 90s, when I was a college student, my grandfather was actually having a herd reduction sale to alleviate some financial burdens on the ranch, and I wanted to help. And so I thought it would be a cool idea to build a website. Keep in mind this was 1999. Computer screens were like one color tandy, and it was way different. And so I just went down to my local bookstore at College Station and bought Web Design for Dummies. And I built this website to help him get the word out about his sale. And what happened really blew our mind, because people started showing up at the ranch with printed copies of this terrible website I had done 20 years ago. And we had not run a print ad, we had not run a radio ad. And so it was a completely new technology. And at that point, I think that's when really the game changed in marketing Seedstock, because at that time you were really limited to getting the word out through word of mouth, to a local geographical area, through print advertising. But when websites came on the scene, it really made the world your marketplace. And so web design and marketing is kind of the core service that we offer at Ranch House Designs. I'll talk a lot about web design and digital marketing tonight, because that's really my strong background in marketing. A couple of years ago, I also founded two other businesses. One is a farm to table beef brand called Brahman Country Beef. We did that to diversify our ranch a little bit and just get a little bit of extra income other than selling the live cattle. And we also added a global semen company. The Brahman Country Genetics focuses on my husband and I's genetics, but we export semen and embryos all over the world. And again, just a little bit of diversification. And then last year, my husband and I went out on our own from operating under my grandfather's brand, and we started our own entity, which is BR Cottrare Incorporated. So that's just a little history about my experiences. I share this graphic. This was in 2005. And this is what I would have considered probably the best day in our ranch history. Now, some of you may not like showing, and so this might not be your cup of tea, but bear with me. There I am standing there holding one of the championship banners. And, at that point in our seed stock business, we really thought we have made it. We won all four champions at the Houston Livestock Show, and, that was the goal. But what people didn't see behind a lot of those banners is, I mentioned, financial difficulty on the ranch. Sales were not really where they should be. We were getting a lot of, recognition in the show ring, but it wasn't translating over to our business, and it wasn't making a good situation for, our family business. So I share with you here some sales numbers. That was in 2005. 5 years later, in 2010, my and my husband's average price that we sold our seed stock cattle for was $4,500 a head. And as you see, we had 6 head. We sold 6 calves that year. So pretty small, right? You got to start somewhere. But what I want to share through this chart is the changes that we have seen through the years. 5 years into our business, we had increased our numbers from going from 6 to 30 head. We had increased our average price. 2 years ago, we had increased from 6 head to 50 head marketed a year at our average price of $17,000. And currently where we're at is we're at 93. We've sold 93 head of seed stock this year for nearly about a $10,000 a head average. And so I think some important things here I want to share. It's okay if you start small, especially in the seed stock business, you have got to start somewhere. And so don't be discouraged, if you only have 2 or 3 head to sell. you have to make a start. And then the challenges that we faced along the lines is, how do you scale up your business and how do you grow that business while still being able to, make a profit and hopefully increase your averages? And so I share that just to kind of give you a background of where we are in our marketing and our production cycle and how we've got there. So in my opinion, there were two big things that really helped us make this leap from like a small scale producer to a pretty respectable size seed stock breeder. The first one is that we had to shift our mindset a little bit. I have an animal science background. I'm kind of old school, taught by my grandpa. And for many, many years, it was just driven into me that, the way you are successful in the cattle business is production success. High pregnancy rates, fertility, heavier weaning weight to sell at the auction, getting one more calf out of that cow, how many cows you have, just simple production things like that. But what really helped us is when we took those production metrics, but we added in a layer of marketing and financial metrics. So measuring our profitability, looking at our income and expenses, what are the inputs that go into that show string, and is it really does it really make sense logically? Customer experiences are very important. We wanted to look at sales data and sales trends and really get to know the why behind what was driving those sales. And then the second thing that really helped us make that transition is asking ourselves two questions: what is driving our bus, and who is driving our bus? In the past, we really were guilty of having a single focus. For example, that focus was shows. And that was, what we lived for, is going to a show. But sometimes when you focus on one trait, it can be very short-lived because, as we all know in showing, if you do well at one show, well, there's always another show a couple weeks later, and you might not do very well there. And so you have something to promote in the short term, but you don't necessarily have a long-term goal. So we made a shift to being more program focused. And what we do here is we look at a lot of factors that are all working together. And this is the type of focus that is really long lasting. And so we have a lot of layers that we feel are benefits, to working with us, being our focus on performance, genetics, phenotype, efficiency, customer service. We even have retail beef. Shows are still a part of that, but essentially we have a lot of things that are driving the bus now instead of just one single focus. And then the second part of that is who is driving the bus. And the difference here is a mindset in being sales driven or service driven. And so in our old situation, really, we had one person who was responsible for driving the bus. And that could be someone, maybe the front man for your operation, or maybe if you're a show person, like the guy who shows all your cattle and everybody knows who he is. But in this old method, that puts a lot of pressure on that one person. And it really comes down to that person and their ability to make sales and connections and phone calls and things like that to drive your business. And again, that's something that's short-lived. And the model that we are embracing now is more of a service-driven model. So, constantly trying to be in touch with our customers, adapting, not so much focusing on the sales or the high sellers or the numbers, but really focusing on solving a problem that our customer has, with multiple people working together and multiple people helping them with their problem. And this is the type of model that is long lasting and can be memorable and drive really a lot of success for a business. So at our ranch, we actually have a motto of good cattle and good vibes. And to me, it's kind of a trendy motto, but it really does sum up what I feel has made our business a success. And I want to break that down a little bit. I mentioned the production metrics, that is crucial for any seed stock operation. So that's the good cattle part of it, performance testing, carcass testing, having trait leaders in the sire summary, incorporating genomics, just having a really functional and efficient cow herd. That's the foundation that's going to make any seed stock operation successful, right? But you got to still have the good vibes, especially in the seed stock business. And what I'm talking about here are the fun things that make the seed stock business good, the people aspect of it. So, going to shows, having customer field days, maybe having a cooperator program, being honest, being approachable, being humble, helping youth programs, being transparent in your business, in your pricing, in your sales, all of those things all work together to really form the ideal seed stock marketing model. So I want to work through some different, 3 different ways that we were able to increase profits in our operation. So the first one I want to talk about is cattle. Our old way of selling all of our cattle back, remember when I sold, 6 head for $4,000, was basically a more secretive approach where we just had cattle at the ranch and people could come any day. They could basically take their pick of whatever we had available. And we pretty much priced everything at $5,000 a head, and that was it. Our new way that we do it is an online auction based platform, and then some private treaty. But we really have enjoyed the online auction model because it really opens up our market to the world, and it shows the public what our cattle are valued at in a public forum, in an auction forum. And even if the prices sell high, for example, we had an online auction a couple weeks ago, and our high selling lot was a bull that was $60,000. Well, that's public record, right? And people know that our sales are very honest, and that helps me be able to price bulls higher back at the ranch. So if I price a bull at $15,000 now at the ranch, I can easily say, well, the top bull of this calf crop just sold for 60,000. And so having that auction system has really helped us, especially the online auction. Um, Now I want to talk about increasing our profits through genetics. I mentioned that we have a semen company, and um, our old method of doing this was we never sold semen. That's it. We did not sell semen. The main reason was because we were afraid somebody might beat us in the show ring with our own bull. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine someone beating me out of my own bull? It was unheard of. And so we just never did. But I started looking at other breeds, and I noticed, our breed was one of the only breeds that didn't do this. And so we said, hey, why not? Let's put our semen out there. And so we offer semen now to the public at a wide variety of pricing, from $20 a straw to $250 a straw. And it's been amazing. And we also do this with embryos. And really, what I found is it's just created so much more opportunity in our breed. And in the last year, we were able to generate nearly $1 million in semen sales just through selling semen at $20 a straw, $50 a straw, $100 a straw. Where in the old way, we were too scared of the competition and we never did it. And then finally, we were able to increase our profits on the ranch through selling beef. Um, and the old way, and what I will be very honest, that the beef program we sell on our farm to table is our cull bulls. These would be bulls that did not fit our standards for our seed stock production, whether they had maybe a bad foot or a bad disposition. And so we castrate them at weaning, and we put them into our farm to table beef program. In the old system, we would have just sold these cull bulls at weaning at the auction barn, $600 a head. The new way is that we develop them at our ranch, we put them into our farm to table beef company, and in doing so, we've been able to add about a $300 profit per head, even after all of our feed and processing is paid. And that's been a great option for us because it helps us bring up the bottom end, so to speak. And that's given us 3 different options for our ranch: live cattle, genetics, and farm to table beef, that has helped us diversify so that during some of this pandemic or some other, stressful times, we have a couple of different outlets rather than just selling, one product, which is seed stock. So I share this. I know a lot of you probably have a bull sale. How would you feel if you were about to start a 500 head bull sale and this was your crowd? I would have a panic attack. I'm just going to be honest. And this was taken at our customer Leachman Cattle. This was maybe 2 days after kind of back in March when like the pandemic was just coming out. And Lee sent me that text. He was sitting on the auction block and he sent me this text and he was like, here we go. And I was a nervous wreck for him, but the way it turned out, it actually ended up being their highest averaging bull sale of the year because people were bidding online. So their crowd was very small, but the overall interest of their sale was better than ever. And I really attribute that to those things that we've talked about before, the production plus the market driven tactic, and who's driving the bus, the overall program, the marketing foundation that had been laid, and it really resulted in success even though a pandemic had just hit. All right, now how about this one? Have any of y'all seen this week? All your friends going on Facebook saying, I'm moving to Parlor, follow me. Is that a thing in North Dakota? I don't know, but it's been a big thing here in Texas. People are exiting Facebook, because they're tired of just the Facebook drama and they're going into other directions. I think that's something that we're really going to have to watch. And then finally, I got this text message from my best Brahmin friend yesterday. Lesson learned. Don't do a sale the week after a presidential election. Ha ha. And I said, "Oh my gosh, I was wondering." And he said, "Lots of calls and messages, but it's been so slow. I think people are just distracted and disappointed." And that was literally taken yesterday, as you can see, at 2:47. So these are very real scenarios that we as seed stock breeders are facing, right? And how are we going to adapt? So I think we can all agree that COVID has really changed things, right? But it brings up a lot of bigger questions that I've kind of alluded to. But what if we can't have in-person sales anymore? What if the typical bull sale that you always have the third Saturday in November can't happen anymore? What if shows go away? That's been a very real thing down here in Texas. A lot of our shows have just been flat out canceled. What happens then? What if Facebook went away? How would you market your cattle and get the word out about things if you didn't have Facebook or if people were not on Facebook? What changes are the election going to bring? Um, and what if, and then maybe a bigger question here is what if people start eating the Impossible Burger? How is that going to affect us? So, very real. So, a good thing that I like to point out in a positive way is that in a time of chaos, which we're totally in chaos right now, that's the time to innovate. I use Airbnb as a good example because back about 10 years ago, 2018, 2019, Uber and Airbnb both came out at that time because they were created as a way to solve a problem that people had of that they were looking for low cost alternatives for travel and transportation during the recession. So people couldn't buy a car. Uber came on the scene and Uber solved that problem. People didn't have as much money to invest in travel. Airbnb came up, gave a lot of low cost options. Boom, problem solved, and two great businesses really emerged. Well, how can we do that in the cattle industry? And I think that it's definitely possible. The best entrepreneurs find inspiration during this chaos. And a good example I use is virtual shows. Did y'all have any of those in North Dakota? So we had a lot in Texas back this spring when all of our junior major livestock shows were canceled. All these virtual shows started coming up. And it was just a different option where people could still get their cattle out there. Their customers could still compete in cattle shows, and it kind of kept the ball rolling during this time of chaos. So try to think of some solutions, some problems that you might be facing now, and what could you do to help solve those during these challenging times. So I want to give a quick 3-step process of kind of how I think you can really step up your brand. The first one is to define your ranch's story and your brand. We talked a little bit about that, but I'm going to flash some more logos up here, and I want you to think about the feelings that come up when you see these. Amazon, Chick-fil-A. I know we're beef producers, but I love Chick-fil-A. Southwest Airlines, Hobby Lobby. Do we have any fans of these brands here? I know these are some of my favorite brands. I like Amazon because I can order something on it and 2 days later it shows up at my house. I love Chick-fil-A because it's fast. Southwest, love that. And don't get me started on Hobby Lobby, but when I see these, it makes me happy. I love these brands. Similarly, what if I flash up some of these brands? Maybe these don't give you quite as good as of a positive feeling as some of the others that I've done. Maybe they're outdated. Maybe they've had a bad experience. The cattle business is no different. When people hear of your ranch or see your brand, they get an idea of what you stand for. So let's talk about what are some things that make people think favorably of your brand. Now, this is taken straight out of a business media, but they're all very applicable to the cattle industry. So the first thing is your ethics and your social responsibility. Are you fair and honest in your dealings? Do you support good causes? How about your emotional appeal? Do people feel good about you? Do they respect you? Do they consider you a leader or a mentor in the cattle business? What products and services do you offer, and how do they differ from other people? So, obviously, higher quality brands are thought of more favorably. Ranches that have innovation, ranches that provide good value. They're a good buy and they can make money for their customers. And then also guarantees are really important. Do you stand behind your bulls? Do you offer a breeding guarantee? Do you have a first season breeding guarantee? Like, how can you add value to your customers when they're buying from you? Financial performance is also another factor. Businesses that outperform their competitors obviously are thought of more favorably, but let's think about that in the cattle industry. Like, do you have a record of profitability? How long have you been in business? Are customers successful using your genetics? And can you give examples of that help build that layer of confidence? And then finally, your vision for the future. Do you have excellent leadership? Are you participating in industry activities? Do you volunteer with your state cattlemen's association? And are you innovating and bringing in new technologies? These are all things that help bolster your image as a cattle producer. And then the second thing is bring your brand to life. And I use this example again, it's my Brahmins. But if you pulled up an Instagram and this is what you saw about a ranch, what could you take away from that? Well, pretty much you could take away that they raise Brahmins, right? um, they like Brahmins, and they look pretty good Brahmins, but that's about as far as you get, right? What if you just swap out a few of your pictures? Now, what do you know about this ranch? Well, you still know that they raise Brahman cattle, right? Because you've still got a bull and baby calf, but now you can see, oh, well, they're a family operation. It looks like, they're a young couple that has a young child. I would probably see that and I would instantly connect. I would be like, hey, they're about my age. They have young kids. They probably wouldn't mind if my kid is crawling all over them while we're showing them bulls. Maybe they're a multi-generational operation because you can see a young family here, and then you can see in the next generation, you would see that maybe they're also farmers, that they raise cotton as well. And then you can see that they also have commercial cattle. So just by changing a few pictures that you put out on your image can really let people get to know who you are and see that human connection, because that is really what connects with people in the seed stock business, the people and the human connection. Okay, so the second step after you've kind of built your brand and put your story out there is to really think about your customers. And the best way to do this is to build personas, in my opinion. And personas are a pretty hot topic in the marketing industry, but I think it's one that maybe the beef industry kind of misses. And basically, what this is forming a semi-fictional representation of your ideal customer. So, where are they from? How old are they? What are their interests? What are their goals? What motivates them? And then when you're building your marketing, build it as if you're talking to this particular persona. And the more detailed you can be, the better. So if you don't have this, I'm assuming most people don't, I really recommend getting started. And the way to do that is just look at your sales data. So I pulled here my top 10 biggest customers for my ranch. And then I start breaking it down. So break it down where they're from. Texas is a big state, so I break it down into major metropolitan areas, break it down on their age. What type of lifestyle do they have? And then hopefully your customer well enough that you can fill in the blanks of some other things that are of interest to them. Do they like the same sports teams you do? Do they like the same activities you do, and try to get an idea of really who is your customer and what are they like. And so when I started making this persona map for our business, some things started standing out. One thing is that I have most of my customers are from Texas. I'm That makes sense. You can see a lot of them are families. So it makes sense. Again, I am a family business, so other families are drawn to us. And then you can really kind of get an idea of who you're really marketing to and what messages will connect with those particular people. So this is where I want to talk a little bit about analytics, because data is so huge. Data is so huge in our operations as breeders. I mean, we live by data as far as wing weights, yearling weights, and things like that. But I feel like we're not using the data as much as we should in terms of marketing. And so Google Analytics is a free tool that's actually out there. And if you have a website, you can add the Google Analytics tool to your website, and it gives you some amazing data. And it really gives you a lot of amazing data about your demographics, like we just talked about. So I just pulled this up. This is my current analytics. And based on the people that are visiting my website, this shows what their interests are. And so you can see they like motor vehicles, they like real estate, they like to drive a pickup truck, they like women's apparel. And this is real data based on who is visiting my website. Well, why is that important? Well, it's very important because it can then, having that data can then be used in your Facebook advertising. And if you are using Facebook business pages, hopefully you can purchase paid advertising, and you can choose the demographics of the people that you want to reach. So for example, if you run an ad, you can say, I want to run an ad to people who live in North Texas, who like real estate, pickup trucks, and women's apparel, because that's who's going to your website, and you can really tie it together and really pinpoint that specific customer. So Facebook has really shifted its goal, as we all know, to your news feeds, filling it with friends and family. And so it's made it a little bit more difficult to get your message out in Facebook without paying for advertising. And so then that becomes a question of to boost or not to boost, and how much do you invest in Facebook advertising. And in a live audience, this is when I always get a lot of interaction, but really you don't have to spend a fortune. Our general rule of thumb is, if you want to grow your page likes, so promoting your page versus a post, you can spend about $50 a month. And if you want to promote a specific post, like, a specific bull for sale or something like that, $5 is a good budget, so that's really affordable. And if done right, it can really help you connect with that prospective audience. And then step 3 is getting the word out to those people that we just identified in step 2, right? Focus on your smallest viable audience of people who are truly interested in your brand and what's going to connect with them. So I always like to give basically the marketing foundation, kind of an overview of the hierarchy of where I see things, the importance of things in marketing. So obviously we've talked about the foundation is good cattle and good people, and you have to have that if you're going to be successful. From there, you want to have a good solid ranch name and brand. Once you've got that in place, you want to utilize a logo, slogan, and ranch colors. That's kind of your branding foundation. From there, I recommend starting with a website and a Facebook page, which is your digital components. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. And then once you have all of that in place, then start bringing in some print advertising. So some big questions here are, what is better, print or web? We're going to answer that. Do I need a website if I have a Facebook page? We'll answer that. And is text messaging the next big thing? And we'll talk about that a little bit too. So e-commerce over retail is really a big thing that's emerged over because of COVID. So I want to ask, when is the last time you've been in a shopping mall? Probably been a while, right? If you did go to the shopping mall, how did you feel? I know when I went, I was a little iffy, right? I didn't know. 24% of Americans don't expect to go to a shopping mall for 6 months because of COVID reopenings. And basically the same principle holds true for people going to your ranch. And so the amount of traffic you're getting on your ranch is probably going to slow down, possibly for a while because of COVID. So what does this mean? Well, it's safe to assume that people don't physically want to go places if they don't have to, right? So that means you've got to bring your ranch to the customer. And how are you going to do that? Pictures, video, prompt response to text and phone calls, being available to your customer. Another thing that's really important to mention is that digital is now first. For many years, we were talking about digital's coming, like digital's going to be the next big thing. But now that COVID is here, digital is first. It's the first marketing method. People are researching online, they're buying online, they're shopping online. Everything is online. But that brings us some new opportunities. And this is actually a good thing because new customers tend to do more research online and shop online more than your established customers. Location is also going to be very important because people are refocusing on buying local and also domestic buying, so you don't want to underestimate the importance of the bull buyer that lives within an hour radius of you. That's going to be very important. And then probably the most exciting thing I think is that brand loyalty is gone. New customers, they don't have that brand loyalty anymore, or maybe they may be thinking, I've bought my bulls from X Ranch for 30 years and that's where I'm always going to buy my bulls. That's over. People are looking for new problem solvers, new brands out there, and that means it's everybody's ball game. Everybody has an opportunity to get their brand out there and get new customers. So again, what does this mean? How can we implement it? It means that you must have some type of digital presence because that's where people are looking for. So you either need a website or you need a Facebook page because people are going online to find their information. You must be Googleable. If you have never done it, Google yourself tonight and just see what comes up. Google your ranch tonight and see what comes up. Or Google the product that you offer. Google Angus bulls for sale and see what comes up and where you rank and who ranks ahead of you if you're not on there. But I want to share an exciting thing because attaining a high search engine ranking is definitely possible. And I share this little screenshot. I know it's small, but just before I did this workshop, I Googled Brahman cattle for sale. That's my main thing. And I was really proud because I came up #1 in the map listings. And I came up #3 overall in the organic search listing for Brahman cattle for sale. And I also want to share, if you look here up at the top where the yellow bar is, you see these are sponsored ads. So people who are paying for this placement. Actually, research shows that a lot of people don't click on the sponsored ad. So where you want to be is right about where I am, because most people pull up the ranking and then they scroll one time and kind of browse and see what's available. So if you are within the first or the second scroll, you have a very high likelihood of coming up. Also, the good news is that keep in mind, my website is a website that's only been up for 1 year. So you don't have to be an old ranch to show up in these search engines if you're doing things right. So I want to talk about the things that are important. Your domain name is really important. So obviously, if someone is searching, shorthorn bulls for sale, if your website is shorthornbulls.com, you're going to come up high. Your domain name extension. A .com is very favorable over, say, like a .biz or .info or something like that. So if you have a choice, make sure you get a .com. Your website content is huge. So you want to have a lot of writing on your website. Pictures are great, obviously, but you need plenty of writing because the writing is what is actually searched by Google. And so if you want to come up for shorthorn bulls for sale, you want to make sure that that phrase is in your website a couple times on every page so that you help come up. Another factor is how frequently your website is updated. Google favors websites that are more frequently updated. So even if it's just something as simple as adding a caption or updating the EPDs on your animals, try to keep your website updated as much as possible. And then also the number of years that your website has been up is a factor. But as I shared, my website's only been up for a year and I've got the #3 spot and the #1 spot in the map ranking. So if you are a new business, you can definitely achieve this. And I think that's pretty exciting. Another question we get is website versus Facebook, which is better? So we do a marketing survey every year and we ask this question. And 83% of our respondents in the Seedstock industry said that the website is the first place that they go when they're looking for information about new businesses. I bet you thought I was going to say Facebook, right? That people go to Facebook first. Facebook is still pretty popular. 68% are going to Facebook, but the website is still the number one place that people are going, and that's because of Google. They go to Google. Google prefers a website over a Facebook page. Another common question we get is, how many social media outlets do I really need to be on? Really, Facebook is where it's at. 89% of the ag industry is on Facebook, and that's where you need to be dedicating the most amount of your time. Instagram would be the second outlet, but what we're finding about Instagram is that people use it for brand awareness, but not necessarily to make the next step to make a transaction. So they're not going to click on your website from Instagram, but they might learn about your business from Instagram. Snapchat is popular, Pinterest, Twitter is down there, and LinkedIn. So really the big takeaway is Facebook number one, Instagram number two. Okay. But have you ever thought about what would happen if Facebook went away? That would be a big hit for us because a lot of us are using Facebook to market our cattle at a very low cost option. And so here's the kicker in the agriculture industry. Print media is still huge, especially in the cattle business. And you cannot underestimate the importance of having a print marketing program. It has a lot of longevity. We're finding that people keep magazines in their house for 6 months on up to forever. My husband can pull out a Brahman journal from 10 years ago at a moment's notice. And so it really gives a long lasting impression. Your demographics in the print industry are on point. So if you want to market to North Dakota ranchers and you advertise in the North Dakota Stockman, you guarantee you're going to hit your target market, right? And that's really, really valuable. Breed association publications are the same on that. Print advertising also builds your reputation, and it's almost as if print advertising has become the new status symbol for top producers because there are a lot of low cost options out there, and everybody knows that. It doesn't cost you anything to have a Facebook page, but if you run a print ad, that's going to cost you. It could cost you $1,000. But by investing in that print advertising, it shows people that you're serious about your business and you care about your business, and it really elevates your brand. Print advertising is also very important. When we do our survey, we ask producers, how do you learn about livestock sales? For men, print magazines are the number one way that they learn about livestock sales. So if your target market includes men in the cattle business, you've got to be running print ads. And really for women are finding out about cattle sales through Facebook primarily, but print magazines are right next under that. And so very, very important, especially if you're promoting a cattle sale, is to run print ads on that sale. And then the last thing I want to talk about in promoting what if Facebook went away is email marketing is very crucial because if Facebook went away, how are you going to get the word out about, your print advertising is going to get the message out in advance, but what are you going to use to get those up to the moment updates? And that's where email marketing comes in. 61% of consumers say they like getting promotional emails on a weekly basis. I fit that demographic. I love getting an email from my favorite clothing store saying they're having a sale. I click on it every time. So how do you get those digital relationships? Again, it goes back to your website. Your website is your online hub. And the goal of having a website is that someone on your website will fill out your catalog request and join your email list. And so that way you've captured their information and you can send them emails when you have updates. Same thing with your social media presence. Your social media presence is really to entertain and inform your audience. But again, the goal should be to get people from your Facebook page to your website page. And then once they get on your website page, they'll join your mailing list. So you can contact them again. And then finally, email marketing kind of ties it all together. So if you aren't doing email marketing, just a quick recap on some providers. MailChimp is a great option. You can actually use it for free if you have less than 2,000 subscribers, and it's really easy to use. Infusionsoft is the email program that we use. It's a lot more advanced, but it offers a lot of technology. So here are two to consider if you're thinking about doing email marketing. So where do you get an email list, right? If you don't have one. Get my thing here. You can really get it Get your own customer list, from your QuickBooks file, your breed association, your state cattlemen's association, your online sale provider. We offer email lists, but the main thing I want to put out here is never buy a list. You probably get emails saying like, "Do you want to buy the contacts from the NCBA convention?" I fell for that one time. It's a scam. Don't do it. So just even if your list is small, stick with what you have and just try to grow it. So let's get a little more technical in talking about analytics. I know I have had a question about, can you really buy bulls off Siri? And how do I show up on Alexa? Kind of some emerging trends as we wrap up here into the future. Most every person I talk to that has a website says, I'm going to be the number one site on Google for Angus bulls for sale. No, you're not. Sorry. You're not going to be able to do that. But if you can find your niche, you can actually attain those goals a little bit better, And so I like to compare it to shotgun versus rifle approach. If you can really narrow in your market, I can help you achieve those goals. So we tell people they can have the best success if you try to define your market in 4 words. So, for example, I had Brahman cattle for sale. That's 4 words. This example I use is a client that does farm to table Wagyu in North Alabama, and so his focus areas are, farm to table Wagyu, freezer beef in North Alabama, and I can achieve that. If he says, I want to be the number one site that comes up on Google when people in North Alabama Google farm to table Wagyu beef, done. I can do it. So it's just a matter of really focusing on what your product is and that niche that you really want to be known for. So the question of, can you sell bulls off Alexa? Wouldn't it be great if it was that easy, right? Voice search is really becoming a lot more popular. 40% of adults are using it in their day-to-day basis, and it's expected that this year, half of the searches will be done through voice. So it's definitely an emerging trend. No, you can't sell your bulls off of Alexa just yet, but you can show up on Alexa. And what we're really finding is Alexa is part of the research phase where they're researching, they're picking up brand names, and then they're going to their computer to research those brand names. So think about how people use Alexa. A lot of things people say would be, Alexa, what ranches are near me? And so you want to make sure that you have your location listed, your city and your state, and preferably your address on your website so that Alexa can filter all that in and find the ranches near that person. Question and answer are also really important because most people are asking Alexa a question. Alexa, how much does an Angus bull weigh? If you have that phrase on your website, you're going to come up. So search engine is really important because websites that rank high on a desktop search are going to be the ones that Alexa pulls up. So you need to be in the top 3 on a desktop search if you want to show up on Alexa. And then finally, your website has to be mobile optimized because everything with Alexa and Siri is mobile optimized. Okay. So just kind of wrapping up here. I love to read marketing books, and one of my favorite authors is Malcolm Gladwell of Outliers. And in that book, he says that it takes about 10,000 hours to become an expert in your field. He talks about hockey players who are experts and business people, and that's what it takes. If you're doing a 40-hour work week, that's about 5 years. We all know ranching is not a 40-hour work week, right? But I really think in ranching, it takes 10 years to really reach the top of your game because it takes time for you to make your breeding decisions and get your pregnancies and wean your calves and then rebreed those heifers, So if you're new in the seed stock business, don't give up. And, wherever you're at in your seed stock journey, stick with it because there's always something that can be improved and always something that you can do better. And it just is a slow process, honestly. And I wrap up by showing this graphic that I started with that I thought was the best day in my history, and really I had no idea what was yet to come. I wouldn't even put this in my top 10 best days right now. And that's the great thing I think about the seed stock business is that if you're doing things right and you're always being innovative and always trying, when you think you've reached the top, you haven't. And the best days that you have are hopefully always the ones that are yet to come. And that's the exciting thing about the cattle business and the people you work with. So that's my presentation, and I'm happy to do any questions or any chat. If anybody has anything, I would love to get some feedback.
Awesome. Thanks so much for those great tips, Rachel. A lot to think about. We will take this chance now to do some question and answer. As I mentioned, there's 2 ways that you can submit questions, and I do have some pre-submitted ones from email. You can either type a question into the chat, or you can send me an email, and I'll try to double duty here. My email is jellingson@ndstockman.org. I'll just go ahead and check if we have anything in the chat box. Nothing there yet, so I'll pull these from email. Okay, in no particular order. So with pandemic situations, Rachel, this particular producer is wondering about how you handle and considerations that you make when deciding if you should postpone or reschedule your production sale.
Mhm.
And if so, what steps or strategies would you recommend to get the word out in a last minute kind of situation like that?
So, in our experience with the producers we worked with this spring, the question we asked was, did they have an online bidding component already set up? Yes or no, that their customers were aware of. And if it was someone that already had that online bidding, and it was put in their catalog and all of that sort of stuff, we just recommended continuing with as planned. Um, and the online bidding option really seemed to work for a lot of people. We did work with some clients that did not have online bidding, and in those cases, they did postpone or altogether cancel and kind of reschedule, maybe a month down the road when they could get an online bidding but that's really the key is, do you give customers an option to bid without being there in person?
And that goes to a question too. So some producers are considering for the first time of utilizing an online option. What kind of considerations should they make as they adopt that feature into their production sale? And how will that change the complexion of their audience?
Mhm. So I'm seeing a couple of different trends in online auctions. There's the smaller online auction. I mean, that could even have as many as 5 head to 20 head, and that's kind of one method. And then there's the bigger online auction. Like we do one with Leachman that I think he sells 300 bulls online. So there's 2 different options you can go there. And again, so you could do a bid off. Like if you have the smaller numbers, typically a bid off is a good, an online regular auction is a good option for you. But if you have the bigger numbers, the 1 day only sale is probably not going to be the best option. So maybe an option there is what would be sort of like a private treaty auction where you put the pictures up and put the videos and just list the price, and people can click buy now and buy all their bulls. And that's kind of a good option if you have larger numbers to do. It is a hassle. I mean, I'm going through it right now myself. In our typical method, we would have an online sale, and then the next week we would have an open house, and there'd be like 50, 60 people who would come, and we would sell out of heifers that day. Well, nobody came, nobody wanted to come this year. And so what we're having to do is photograph every animal, make a video of every animal at the ranch, and it's a lot of extra work on our part, but unfortunately that's just what we're having to do right now to get the cattle sold, because people aren't willing to come to the ranch. And especially if you work with an international, I don't know if any of y'all, but we work with a lot of international clients and it's just not feasible. So we got to bring it to them.
Got a couple questions coming in the chat. One producer is wondering if we're going to share these slides. We are going to share the video, and so that will be available so you can watch the whole presentation again. The next question, Rachel, is what's the best way to utilize Facebook groups?
Okay, Facebook groups are a great tool, especially for cultivating a smaller niche audience. So, you see them a lot in boutiques, for example. Like there might be a boutique Facebook page, but then they have like a VIP Facebook group. And so your groups are different. If you're using groups, you would pre-screen people that can be in the group. You can ask them a couple questions. You can approve them, yes or no, and you can have a little bit more privacy in a group because you control who's in it, you know. And so the best way to use groups is really for fostering those more private, more personal relationships. Groups are more all about a conversation, where a Facebook page is more you as the business putting out a message, but a group is more about conversation. So you might post a picture of a bull and say, "Hey guys, what do you think of this bull? Like pros and cons," and just try to get people talking in a group rather than a page. Mhm.
Great. Just a reminder for those that are participating, if you have a question, you can either use the chat or you can email them to me at jellingson@ndstockman.org. Our next question asks more about those text messages. Are there some specific tools or applications available to manage groups and pre-schedule text alerts?
Yeah, so I use a text messaging service called Cattle Text or Easy Text, and you can pre-schedule those. I have not seen text messaging really taken off. It's good. The good thing about text messaging is that it almost has 100% open rate because people get a text, obviously they're going to open it, you know. But it's more better used for reminders, not necessarily, you know, for creating transaction again. So just a quick reminder of like my sale is open, but hopefully then they're going to pull up their web browser and go to your sale. You know, so it's still important, but I don't really see it as taking over as the next big thing.
Sure. Rachel, did we lose you?
I'm still here.
Oh, we can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we just froze up for a second.
Okay. I see a question about an ad budget. What advertising budget do we recommend? I do anywhere from 1% of my gross sales to 5%, and it varies based on my objective. So I've mentioned, you know, I am in a business right now, and so I'm being very aggressive in our marketing, and so I'm really spending up in that 5% of our gross sales. But you know, in years past, maybe I've been a little more conservative, you know, so anywhere from 1 to 5% of your gross annual sales is what I would recommend, depending on, you know, how much you really need to get it out there. Mhm.
Couple questions that are back on online sales about what routes you take and any tips on how to select a company to work with for your online sales.
Oh, there's a lot of good, you know, there's a lot of great online auction companies out there. The thing I would take into consideration is your breed. You know, if you're some breeds have online sale platforms that are a little more popular than others. And what is that online auction company going to do to help you market your sale? You know, for example, if you book with them, do you get access to their email list? Are they going to send out some email blasts for you? And then also asking like, what is the expectations you have with that company? So, you know, do you have to upload your own videos or do they do that for you? You know, just kind of some questions like that. How do you send in your footnotes and make sure that you're comfortable meeting the expectations and the deadlines they have, and how they can really work for you as well.
Great. Another question online is there a standard formula that you recommend about producers' promotional budget configuration between online, digital media, and
Yeah.
print? Is there a magic formula or is every case different?
So there is a formula, and the form really, but it's so I every year, Ad Age magazine will come out with the marketing spend breakdown of what the biggest brands in the USA are doing, and I usually try to make a point to look at that every year and then tailor my budget to that. So I look at how did, you know, Verizon spend their money in advertising, and then take that same exact formula and apply it to our ranch. But surprisingly, actually this year it was 50-50. It was 50% on print and now this was pre-COVID. Keep in mind, this was at the beginning of 2020, but their breakdown was 50% on print and 50% on digital. And so that's what I'm using this year. And I also, as a new brand, I've invested pretty heavily in print advertising, and I've definitely found that it has worked. I had advertised with some more national or regional publications, and in every case, I've gotten phone calls from people saying, "Oh, I saw your ad in, this magazine," or "I saw your ad in the Brahmin Journal." And so I'm a big believer in print advertising. I think it definitely is very important. I saw the question about, are banner ads on other websites effective? No, not really. They're not. A more effective tool for that would be investing in targeted Facebook advertising, and that would probably be a better way to spend your money than a banner ad. If you do an online sale, do you still need a printed catalog, or can you just post videos and info on your website? I, again, am a firm believer in print. And for every time I do an online sale, I actually publish a catalog and print it and mail it out, even if it's just an online sale. But I try to spend my money pretty wisely on this. So you can design, the most glamorous catalog you want and post it online, and that doesn't cost you anything. And with printers nowadays, a lot of them have digital print presses, and you could do a run as short as even 25 to 50 catalogs. And that's what I do. So I'll put my catalog out there, but then I have fine-tuned my target demographic and those personas so much, I pretty much know who's going to bid in my sale before the sale starts. And those are the people that I send the catalog to. So it might cost me $500 to print a catalog and, print 50 copies and mail a catalog. And I definitely feel that it is for certain worth the investment. And people always comment, "I love getting your catalogs." People just like getting something in the mail.
One of the concerns, Rachel, I know that it seems like the Postal Service is more erratic than it used to be. I'm curious about what way you recommend people mail their catalog, and what you're anticipating with your own customers, with your business, about more lead time given pandemic impacts to mailing services.
Yeah, right now, I like for people to get it 2 weeks to 10 days before. And so, that means we usually need to have it to the printer about 3 weeks before the sale. Sometimes I get a little pushback from clients on that that's just too far in advance for them, and they want to wait and take their pictures, later, which I certainly understand. And so we work with clients whenever, but, I definitely feel like 10 days to 14 days is the window that I want to be in right now.
And would that be for first class mailing, or some type of bulk?
I do all of ours first class mail. Again, I think it just kind of makes you look a little bit more elevated in your brand. So it's not that much more expensive, and we always just do first class. Mhm. So how long before a sale do I start doing boosted Facebook ads? This is a tricky one. And when I say this, I think that maybe y'all will agree with me, is that you notice there are some people who start promoting their sale like a month in advance, and you see it, but then you see it every single day for a whole month, and you just start glazing over. You're like, "Oh, I've seen that 10 times already. So if it's just an online sale, really for any sales, I really start a strong push the week before my sale on Facebook, because I don't want to spam people and don't want to overwhelm them. Especially people are on Facebook all the time and they get email marketing. And so you don't really have to start that far in advance. Hopefully, if you've got everything together, they're going to be getting your catalog or your postcard or something, about 10 to 14 days before your sale. And then you start those Facebook ads about a week before your sale to keep it top of mind. And then you follow up with an email blast, 3 days before your sale and 1 day before your sale. And that kind of ties it all together.
And that ties into the next question that was sent about email marketing, and how often do you recommend emailing customers so you aren't that spam?
Yeah, so a good rule of thumb is, if you are maintaining your own internal email list, once a month is a pretty good frequency, because you want to send out emails enough to where you make sure your list stays clean. So if you have bad emails, they can get filtered out and you're not getting a lot of spam complaints. So about once a month is good for like a newsletter or something like that. And then when it's your sale time, I usually like a series of 3 email blasts, maybe about a week before, maybe when your sale pictures are posted on your website, about a week before, 3 days before. And if it's an online sale, obviously the day the sale opens, but 3 is a good rule of thumb.
Kind of on that same genre, the question is how you recommend updating or deleting customers Some people have you fill out a card to stay on the list and whatnot, but what kind of tips do you have regarding that?
So after every online sale, I go in and I update, like, did they register for the sale? Did they cast a bid? Did they buy? And if they did any of that, obviously they stay on my list. And I usually go with customers from about a 2-year window of active customers is what actually is going to get mailed materials from me. If they've done any type of transaction with me in the last 2 years or bid on any of my sales. And then if not 2 years, I'll just keep them on my email list, but not mail anything.
Oh, here's a good one. What's the biggest mistake you see producers making in their livestock marketing?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I guess I think that we sometimes get so wrapped up in our own ranches that we feel like we know what's going on and all the big things that, all the great things that are going on at our operation, but your customers truly only know what you're telling them. And sometimes that's hard, especially if you're humble, because I think a lot of us as ranchers, we're taught, like, don't brag on yourself, be private, you know but you do have to get your message out to clients. So if you just had a really great ultrasound scan, tell people about it, put that on Facebook, or say the new trait leaders came out and you've got a couple bulls in the trait leaders, put that out there. Don't be afraid to brag on yourself a little bit, but still in a humble way, because that's really the only way that people are going to know, is you've got to tell them what you want them to know about your operation.
Right. This question goes back to those in-person sales during a pandemic. So along with the promotion, what kind of advice are you giving your customers about considerations that they need to make, of course, beyond what the municipalities maybe dictate, but what other kind of logistics are they having to wrestle through that we should be thinking about?
So I am a little more cautious of COVID. I'll be honest. Like, I do wear a mask, and then I have some of the guys that work on our ranch that think COVID is a complete scam and it's not even real. And so you deal with a wide variety of customers here. So we have limited our international customers right now. We're really not accepting international visitors. And then I kind of leave it up to our customer as well, what they're comfortable with. Obviously, everything we do is outdoors, and so that's good. And we wear a mask a lot. If a customer doesn't want to wear a mask, I'm not going to make them wear a mask, but I do have several customers that, wear a mask, and definitely the social distancing. We definitely are seeing that. So we're taking precautions. I mean, we're not being like Nazis about it, but we are taking precautions and trying to follow it. You know, we we went we went to some shows and we wore masks the whole time. I think that that's just what you have to do. My opinion. No.
You showed us an example of the sale crowd at the Leachman sale and how scary that feeling would be.
Mhm.
So as people plan their sales, whether it be support helpers or people in the kitchen to serve a meal or whatever it is,
Mhm.
have you seen a consistent size reduction in the crowd, or how does a person plan for that unknown?
Most definitely. I mean, I think you need to really, I don't want to say assume the worst, but assume that the large majority of your buyers are not going to come to your sale. And so make it very clear how they can bid online, how they can call in, what online platform you're going to use. Maybe don't offer a meal, just be as cautious as you can, and make it as easy as possible for people to see your cattle through videos and video preferably, and make it very easy for them to bid online, so they don't have to come to the sale. So what program do we use to manage customer information? I use two, actually, well, three. So QuickBooks is my financial accounting that we use, and I use all of that. And then usually before the sale, I'll run a report of all the sales that I've had, in the last year. And then I move those over into Excel, and because Excel is where I have to send our mailing list. And then we also use a program called Infusionsoft that I mentioned. It's a pretty robust email marketing system, and that allows you It gives you a lot of demographics as far as, what emails customers are opening, what their behavior is, what subject lines perform the best for certain customers. And so those are the three tools that we use: QuickBooks, Excel, and then our email marketing program.
And this listener is also wondering, how about clerking, online clerking or electronic clerking options? What program or programs do you recommend, if any?
I don't know that. I don't know that one. Sorry.
Okay, well, maybe if somebody else has something, add it to the chat and we'll all learn some. So, and as a reminder, I'm getting down to just, I think, one question warning. So if you have something that you are on your mind and want to know about, use the chat or jellingson@ndstockman.org. But the last one that I have on my pile is, if there was only one thing of the tips and tricks that you had suggested tonight for people to enhance their production sale to return the most value, what would it be?
I would say your email list. But keep in mind, the email list is something that is built on all of your other marketing practices. You can't really, you get your contacts from your email list, from your website, and from social media. But I am a firm believer in that email list, because that is what is going to reach those customers at the last minute. And the people that have joined your email list are almost pre-qualified because they cared enough about your business to fill out the catalog request on your website. And so you know that they're interested in your product, and that your email list is really your most valuable marketing tool, in my opinion, and the one that you should really work on cultivating the most, and keeping fresh, and keeping content and nurturing to grow.
Awesome. Well, I don't have any more questions on either of those platforms. And so we want to say a big thank you to you for some great insight. You got my mind churning, and I'm sure everybody else too, as we look forward to hopefully a very successful marketing season, despite the craziness of the world. But if there was a way for us to give you a round of applause, we will. But
I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much. It's so great. It's great to get to see people, from North Dakota. I would have never been able to come to North Dakota, had it not been for COVID. And so I just appreciate the opportunity, and thank y'all for the chance to get to visit and answer the questions.
Well, thanks so much, and good luck to you with your own marketing and your own ranch work there too, and stay healthy. So, all
right, bye.
So with that, we're going to do just a couple more wrap-up things, but I'm going to turn the program back over to Elizabeth. Of course, Elizabeth is the Stockman's Communication Director, which means that she's the editor and advertising manager for our own association publication, and she's going to give you a few details about how that all works and help you make some plans for bull sale season.
Yeah, so of course we've heard a lot about advertising, print media, digital media. So I obviously am a proponent of that, print media. So the Stockman is the official publication of the North Dakota Stockmen's Association. And it's a full color monthly magazine that provides features, industry news, production, management, and health tips. And so it's published 11 times a year. The deadline to advertise in that is the 15th of the month preceding the publication. So for example, to advertise in our December magazine, you have to let me know by November 15th. The holidays are coming up too, and so is sales season. We know a lot about that. So the deadlines are going to snake up. So contact me soon, and we can be in contact about your ad. In addition, if you do place an ad, we do offer ring service for availability. Just give us a call, and we will give you more information on that. Our number is 701-223-2522. And then just for more information and a rate card, just email me. My email is enesham@ndstockman.org, or you can call our office, and we look forward to the opportunity to work with and for you. We really like our publication. Obviously, we're a little bit biased there, but we'd really like to help you out. So let me know if you're interested in advertising with us. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our president, Jeff Schaefer. Jeff, if you want to unmute yourself here.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi, Elizabeth. Hi, everyone out there. Thanks for putting this together. It was very good. On behalf of the North Dakota Stockmen's Association, thank you for your membership. Those of you that are listening that are members, we appreciate that. Strength is in the numbers. If you are not a member, please consider joining our association. We're 91 years old. We've got just short of 3,000 members. We actually grew in membership this year, which I think for the year that we had is an awesome deal. And with that, the magazine that Elizabeth was talking about, you receive 11 of those editions per year. The only month that you will not get one is June. So those of you that get them every day or every month, you know what great thing that magazine is. And you probably have shared it with members that don't get one. So please consider a membership. And with that, I think that's all I got.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. And thanks, Elizabeth, for sharing that information. And again, I can't believe that even though this has seemed like an incredibly long year, it's also going fast at the same time. And so a lot of important deadlines coming up. And I know what is on my to-do list, and I'm sure the same on yours. A couple of other special things we just wanted to make sure that we noted. Of course, the Seedstock Council has representatives from our respective state breed associations. And so a lot of special activities that are right around the corner for our state breed associations. I guess the first one is really as this weekend, the North Dakota Angus Association kind of kicking off the annual meeting and banquet season. You'll see the others on the screen. And so we wish all of the breed associations and the breeders the best of luck on those meetings and activities, as well as the state sales, and encourage you to take part in those as you are able. Also coming up, the Seedstock Council, you saw the list of representatives earlier in the program. They will be having their next meeting when the calendar page flips on January 14th. So more details for those of you on the council will be coming via email about how to log on to that and set kind of the direction and priorities for the 2021 year. And for those of you that aren't on the council, we also encourage your input too. Our Stockmen's Association is stronger by the feedback and involvement of our members. And so if you have ideas about activities or programs or sessions such as this that would benefit you as a producer, please let us know, and we will do the best that we can to weave those details into our program planning year. And with that, I think I will close by just saying thank you again for taking part of your night to spend with us. Thank you for being involved and engaged in everything that you do on your operations. We really hope that you have a good holiday season, a great production sales season. And if there's anything that we can do here for you at the association, you know how to get a hold of us. We wish you all the best, and thank you for your participation.